Hello, boys and girls. Thursday. Right. The first chartified presentation thing is the United States is a low tax country, but it's obviously we're going to look at the rest of the countries as well. Denmark being on the top. Now, they are nearly 50% of tax revenue as a percentage of GDP. So United States is what, 14 trillion GDP, and they would be taking 7 trillion or 6.5 trillion in tax if they were Denmark-like, but they're not. What is the tax take? Hard to know. I don't really know. I know what it is for income tax, but these are all the taxes. State taxes in the United States and VAT taxes in the European countries, etc. So, the big tax takers are Denmark, Sweden and France. Hello. Belgium, Norway, Italy and Finland. Okay, we're still over 40% with Austria, but going under 40% now, Iceland, Hungary, the Netherlands, Slovenia, Czech Republic, Spain, Israel, Germany, United Kingdom, Luxembourg, and now we're down to what is called here the OECD total, which I'm sure will be the average or mean or median. Anyway, in the middle-ish somewhere. So we can go on to 1B, which is the bottom of the chart. And underneath the dark blue line, New Zealand. So we're taxing a lot less now. Poland, Canada, Portugal, Greece, Estonia, Ireland, and now we're down to under 30% of tax taking from GDP. Australia, Slovak Republic, Switzerland, Japan, and in here we get the United States. The United States are lightly taxed peoples. Now, I think housing taxes are in here as well. I think the whole amount of taxes are actually represented here. I think that's the idea. So don't think, oh, well, we pay sales tax for California or something. I think they've tried to represent it with everything. Although that'd be really hard calculations, but it is the OECD and they've got a lot of time and money on their hands. And below the United States, all we have is Korea, Turkey, which is a dodgy one. They're running into trouble. Chile, using the Chicago schoolboys techniques, and Mexico. Okay. And I think you've got countries like Russia, or not in the OECD, but I think they've got something like a 15% flat rate tax or something in Russia. Hey. Right, that's enough of that. You could have paused and watched. Same with this one. It's written on the top, figure 1, but it's our number 2. And this is share of employees in the overall workforce that are working in what they call low-wage work. Now, what low-wage work is, I don't know, and I doubt if you'll get to know, but as long as they are using the same criteria for all of these countries, this gives us an idea what's going on. And it says that in the United States, 25% of employees can be categorized, according to these people, as low-wage workers. 1/4 of the workers in the United States are low-wage workers. Right. Hopefully using a similar criteria, 1/5 of workers in the United Kingdom, Canada, Ireland and Germany are low-wage workers, and Germany's in there. They changed their rules and basically can now force people into low-wage work. This is how they keep their unemployment situation under control, by forcing the people to take low-wage work. Right, we're on our way down at Netherlands. I was surprised that Netherlands is that high, but there we are. Austria, Spain, Japan, Australia, Portugal, Denmark and Greece are kind of the average amount of low-wage workers in the overall workplace. And under that we come to the countries that basically have very few low-wage people in their workforces. and that is New Zealand, France, Finland, Norway, Italy and Belgium. I was surprised to see Italy right down there at the bottom. Italy. Only 8% of their workers are what considered, same in the United States, low-wage workers. 8% in Italy, 25% in the United States. All of this is just to show there are different ways of working things. The United States, we could even say, pay low wages, pay low taxes. In the European countries, we could say, pay higher wages, pay higher taxes. That's a very crude overall looking at this. But if you actually look at the countries a bit deeper, they don't fit nicely into those categories. But the grosso modo, the big categories are that way. Pay less wages, pay less taxes, pay more wages, pay more taxes. United States. Interesting this, that's why I just put it in for fun. Net number of undocumented immigrants from Mexico is 0. It is now net zero migration, as many Mexicans are going away home as are sneaking in. There's just nothing in the United States anymore to keep the Mexicans flooding over the border. So many are going home. This was in the article that I highlighted the day before yesterday, I think, about America having a new industrial policy, where I think that it will move towards. And these were two comments in the comment section that ran together. So because they ran together, I'm going to give you them here. This is the bottom part of one comment and running into Patin Houston's comment, which I'll give you next. And they're two kind of contrasting views. Free market economy has created an economical optimum, right? But the impossibility to get away from it is acting like a straitjacket. Society can't breathe and reinvent itself. To aggravate this situation, markets have become terrible allocators of capital. The Nasdaq in 2000, then real estate bubble in 2008 or till 2008. Thereafter, it's difficult to understand what, and that is quite frankly what is going on at the moment now. It is quite frankly difficult to understand what is being invested in. It's just a mess. Politic must regain authority on money creation, monetary creation, when it comes to pay for long-term societal infrastructure investments, among them education, mobility, clean energy, environment. In other words, the government should print the money needed to finance those expenses at charge to the central bank and market economy to do, in the next context, what they know best, reach a new economical optimum. This would preserve market economy, create jobs, pick nobody's pocket, and give a sense to what we do. Now, it's not brilliantly written, as I'm sure we'll all agree, but what grabbed me out of that was, it's an American idea to say, get the central bank to pay for infrastructure, and then let the private free market do on the top of that infrastructure what they do best. But I liked the straitjacket thing. Free market, straitjacket, society can't breathe and reinvest itself. And I thought that was quite nicely pointed out, that just free market doesn't make everyone free and happy. It can really be constrictive as well. Right, we'll get on to Patin Houston. Look at the unconventional shale gas. Innovation came from small independents, e.g. one oil man, George Mitchell of Mitchell Energy, in spite of superior size and resource of the majors. chance became reality is facilitated by close proximity of research and development to production lines, e.g. Mitchell drilled wells and experimented with fracking in Barnett Shale close to oil field services around. Experimentation coupled with deliberate risk-taking and further supported by simplified tax codes, US, can unleash industries industrious, energy, and catalyse innovation fusion. Again, it's not brilliantly put across, but it's saying, let these guys rip and America will be great. And I ask you, if you had the choice between the letting things rip and having the government do a bit more controlling, which would you go for? Or the first commenter, let the government, now the question is where it gets its money from, build the infrastructure and then get out of the way for the private to get to do what it does on top. But we can't get round the fact that the private at the moment in the United States and around the world is getting its little self out of control. They're being right little bastards. Private are being right little stupid bastards with their what do they call it for the shareholders, always banging on about shareholder value, and must do best for the stockholders. It's not nice, and it isn't that it's not nice, it's just not, it's not even efficient. What they're doing is just short-term nonsense. It's not good capitalism. It's not using capital to build for the future. It's using people to rip their money off them in the short term. And that's all it's doing. It's not, the United States is not building for the future. So if the private market isn't going to build for the future, who is going to build for the future? Because there will be a future. Anyway, I wasn't going to do that. Let's get on with other things. China, who have plans. They might not be brilliant plans, but they do have plans. Their M2 money supply in red dotties here. And the solid red is the amount of excavators that they go and buy to then dig up China and build things. And you can see there's quite an overlap. There's real correlation between the two. The more money supply, the more M2 that's out there, the more diggers they buy. That's interesting in its own way, and the government will control that amount of money and will control the amount of diggers. But you can see they've really let it slide off because it was getting too hot. For the last 2 years, the amount of M2 is going down and the amount of digger sales is going down. Narma Wine Lake is Ireland. We're over in Europe now with Ireland, and this is just to say, I think it's just to say, I read this very long article on Ireland. I haven't given up on it just because I'm not talking about it much. They are still in terrible trouble in Ireland. And it's really irrelevant what that article is. Narma Wine Lake is just brilliant in what it does, and I'm glad it's there. I'll leave it there. This is in eMarket, or I forget where this is from, it doesn't matter anyway. Market Watch. London. What's the scariest statistic in the financial markets of the last few weeks? Easy, says Matthew Lynn. The €6 million house in Munich. The Bavarian city isn't the kind of place you associate with property bubbles, but one piece of real estate recently went for that hefty sum, 6 million. And more to the point, it was twice what was paid for it 6 years earlier. Germany is starting to see a sudden run-up in property prices, and that matters. The recent storming bull run has been driven by the vast sums of money pumped into the system by the European Central Bank, but as that starts to spill over into higher prices in Germany, that country's central bank will start fighting furiously to bring them under control. The ECB started this rally. The Bundesbank will stamp it out. Right. The last chart here is very pretty looking, number 8. It's actually an article called You Can't Handle the Truth, and it's more about the United Kingdom than anything else. And this information is in the heart of it. I've highlighted 3 to talk about, but I wasn't going to go on too much this morning. Anyway, Japan, government debt. We've got these 4 different blues. We've seen them before. Household debt is the first one on the left. Then the next blue is non-financial corporations. The dark blue is financial institutions. And the light blue is government. Light blue, government, for Japan, 226% of GDP. Huge. Much bigger than the United States, which is only 80 at the bottom. Actually, it's nearer 100 now. This must be out of date. But it just shows that if Japan can get away with 226, the United States can get away with 226. Easy peasy. Anyway. Next, the United Kingdom, the one I've highlighted in blue, is financial institutions, is one of the reasons that the United Kingdom is just marginally behind Japan in the debt to GDP stakes. Now, this article, strangely, about the UK economy and whether it's better or worse than other Euro countries, has pointed to 2 main areas, and they're strangely rehypothecation, which we've briefly gone to. This guy shows exactly what rehypothecation is, and I think the idea is why that number in blue is so much could have to do with rehypothecation. I'll come back to the second one for the UK, and I'll just deal with this second blue bar in Spain, which is non-financial corporations, and these are the home builders, the developers, or you could just say the banks, because the developers are just banks that dig things up and build things occasionally when things look good, and now things do not look good, so that number is in non-financial corporations, but really it's going to fall straight back onto the banks of Spain. Okay, and the last thing is to say, in the United Kingdom article there that can be followed by the link, the second thing, not rehypothecation, is the UK pension industry and why that might be a problem. And as we know, pensions are a problem right across the OECD world, because we have promised so much, and it's going to be rather tricky to actually your mouth has written checks that your body can't. What was it? That's another quote from a film. And really the OECD mouths have written an awful lot of checks, and they have to decide how the economy is to be set up so those checks can be fulfilled. Easy, really. Bye.